Hello, I'm Graham. Hope everyone's having a great day. In this video I want to show you how to fit a 37mm filter ring to the Sony HX9v or HX20v camera. By installing a 37mm filter ring, it gives you access to a whole range of creative opportunities. For example, you can use circular polarizing filters, you can use the neutral graduated filters for landscapes in your photography. The limit of the creativity is only limited by your own imagination. It first of all involves gluing a 37mm filter thread to the front surface of the lens. Now I know that sounds catastrophic, but in fact I'm using a latex adhesive which provides an adequate bond, yet should you want to remove the filter housing, for example if you were going to resell your camera, leaves no residue and doesn't cause any damage to the front surface of that lens plate. The actual filter ring I've used was from a set of three, which I found on eBay, and I think they were £6 in the UK, and they were from a company called Newer. So you get a set of three: the ultraviolet, the circular polarizing and an FLD rose filter. So I decided to use the ultraviolet as the donor for this filter thread, and I just removed the rear threads of the UV holder by a combination of Dremel and files to get a flat surface with as much clearance through the center of the filter holder as I possibly could. To remove the filter locking ring, I used a pair of scissors to engage into the two slots on the locking ring and then turned it to remove the locking ring. So to remove the filter locking ring from the filter itself, you need to put the points of the scissors into those two slots and hold the scissors at an angle so you can actually push and rotate that filter locking ring round. Once you get it started, it will come out fairly easily, but try not to mark the threads of the filter as you remove the locking ring. Alternatively, you could take the ultraviolet filter, which there is no need to fit ultraviolet filters to modern digital cameras, apart from giving you some physical protection to the lens, and you could place this on the surface and then with a hammer and nail break out the ultraviolet filter, and then the locking ring will come out very easily. By removing the locking ring, you get access to deeper threads, so you can actually screw in a secondary filter. Once you've done that, it's a simple matter of bonding the filter to the front surface of the lens, and I'll show you that technique now. So this is the actual ring that I'm going to bond to the front of the camera. It's a result of removing the locking ring and the lens from the filter holder, and then I dremeled and then filed to get a flat surface on the back, which just exposes the threads of the ring itself. We've only got about 1.5 millimeters or 1/16 of an inch of material to bond to the surface of the lens. So it's a case of trying to find an adhesive which is strong enough to hold the threads, but yet not strong enough to destroy the face of the lens itself. The two methods I've used which work fairly well are the use of a double-sided adhesive tape, and with this latex adhesive. In the UK it's called Copydex, but any form of a latex adhesive will work fine. I've even used clear silicone, and that appears to work, but it does involve a little bit more work to get the adhesive off the front of the lens if you wanted to remove it, but it does give you a more secure bond. I'll show you both methods of mounting this on the camera, and you can decide which one would suit you. So this is the double-sided tape method, and this is quite broad double-sided tape, and I make a double thickness so that I've got two surfaces to be able to work with. And then taking the lens ring that's going to be bonded to the camera, and with a marker pen just mark out the inside diameter, And then with a pair of scissors, it's a case of cutting as close to the outside edge of that marked area to get the inside diameter for the double-sided tape. So following as close to the outside line as you can get. Obviously, the more accurate you can get this, the better will be the final result. Having cut the inside diameter, it's now a case of revealing the top surface of this double-sided tape, and this is probably the most difficult part of the whole operation, getting the backing paper off this adhesive tape. Probably a scalpel would be a good idea to be able to lift it off. So now we have the adhesive. Clean up the ring, make sure there's no grease on it, and then centralize the ring over the hole that you've just made in the adhesive material. Firmly press it down to bond it in place. Now it's a case of using your scissors to cut from the other side to make the outside diameter, and try to keep your scissors at an angle. It will give you a cleaner cut and much closer to the outside edge of this filter ring. The sharper your scissors are, the better the result, as you're not trying to move the backing paper away from the adhesive as you're doing this. Adhesive does tend to build up on the blades of the scissors, and it might be advisable to wipe those with alcohol swab or something like that, just to keep the adhesive off. But once you've cut that round as neat as you can, just needs a little bit of trimming here. There's a little bit of overhang. It's these little pieces that stick to the scissors and prevent you from getting a good clean job. So that's where I would recommend that you actually do keep the scissor blades clean to get the best cut. So we'll call that done. It's not an absolute perfect finish, but you get my idea there. Then just remove the backing paper, and that leaves the double-sided adhesive tape bonded to the ring. It's now a case of powering on the camera to extend the lens, and then centralizing this on the lens barrel. So once you've got the ring centralized, if you turn off the camera, you can put a little bit more pressure on to bond it down, and then I'd recommend that you put the camera on a flat surface with a weight on the back to keep the adhesive in contact with the lens and the camera, to bond it a little bit further. To finish the product off, you can use an indelible black marker pen to match the finish of the camera itself if you wanted to make it black. If you spray paint it, then obviously you're going to get paint in the threads of this and make it more difficult for you to screw filters in, and the finish doesn't actually stay on that well on aluminium. So that is the completed product, and now it allows you to screw in your close-up lenses or filters or whatever. So that's method one. That's the double-sided adhesive tape. It's the quickest way and does give you a substantial bond. When you want to come to remove this, it's fairly easy. All you have to do is put a fingernail between the lens ring and the lens itself, and you can take it off, and you can see there's absolutely no residue of this double-sided tape on the lens surface. The second method involves the use of this latex adhesive, and I found it better if you've got two filters to stack those together and then screw the lens ring into the end of the filter. It gives you a little bit more purchase on the ring itself while you're applying this adhesive. So this product does come with a brush in the pot, and it's a case of just applying a layer of adhesive all around the outside of that filter ring and trying to get an even coating. And once you have an even coating around the filter ring, set that aside to dry, and we have to do the same with the camera. We just need to put a 1mm bead of this around the outside edge, as this material is a contact adhesive. So again, just taking your time, just going around the outside edge of the camera lens. It actually dries clear, so it doesn't look too bad once the ring is in place. And if you do it neatly, none of this shows anyway. So again, just take your time, put an even coating around the lens. At this point I would take out the battery from the camera so the lens doesn't retract back into the body of the camera. And again, we just set that aside for this adhesive to go clear, and then that is the point at which the material is ready to bond to itself. So that'll take about 15 minutes, so we'll come back when that's ready. As you can see now, the adhesive has dried perfectly clear on the surface of the lens and on the rear of this lens ring. So I'm now going to attach the filter ring to the lens, and it's a case of just getting the two concentric and applying just a little bit of pressure to make that bond. The bond will reach full strength in a few minutes, so it's ready to use. So now the ring is firmly attached to the front of the lens surface. You can now use your close-up lenses or your polarizing filter, a caulking mount. I use a 37 to 52mm adapter, as I've got quite a few lenses and polarizing filters which are 52mm. If you hadn't got any other lenses, I would suggest you get a 37 to 42mm adapter and then purchase 42mm lenses. There is a very small amount of vignetting, even though I've cut this down to the absolute minimum. Once you start to apply other lenses to that, you're obviously going to increase the thickness here, and that's picked up by the camera in its wide angle setting. So you may just need to zoom in maybe 1.2 times to get around that, but the benefits of having the filter thread outweigh that small inconvenience. Okay, that's it for this video. Hope you found that useful, and it's Graham saying thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you in later videos. Bye for now. Hello, I'm Graham. Hope everyone's having a great day. In this video I want to show you how to fit a 37mm filter ring to the Sony HX9v or HX20v camera. By installing a 37mm filter ring, it gives you access to a whole range of creative opportunities. For example, you can use circular polarizing filters, you can use the neutral graduated filters for landscapes in your photography. The limit of the creativity is only limited by your own imagination. It first of all involves gluing a 37mm filter thread to the front surface of the lens. Now I know that sounds catastrophic, but in fact I'm using a latex adhesive which provides an adequate bond, yet should you want to remove the filter housing, for example if you were going to resell your camera, leaves no residue and doesn't cause any damage to the front surface of that lens plate. The actual filter ring I've used was from a set of 3 which I found on eBay, and I think they were £6.